a municipality where we just have could have one pot of funding for grant and aids. There is many pots that we create during this process based on where we think the benefit for the grant is. So sometimes it is the entire regional district that's participating in the grant. Sometimes it's the Alberni Valley only. Other times it's Alberni Valley and Banfield, the West Coast. So it is a bit of a long process, and I do appreciate your patience as we go through it. But our process is flexible in the way that different parts of the region can come together to support these great organizations. So I would just recommend that we go through each one by one. I'm happy to go over who the applicant was and the amounts awarded in the previous 2 years, and then allow for discussion if that works. Chairperson? Okay.
Thank you, Terry. I just want to remind the board that these organizations do a lot of really good work in our communities. We have to think about what our community would be like if they didn't exist. So as you're going through this process, keep that in the back of your mind. Director Steer?
Yes, thank you, through the chair. Terry, question directed on a number of the GIAs of the organizations. These are organizations that have not had previous awards to them. And under the prior year participants, it's an NA. And I'm wondering, as part of the discussion on those particular ones, is that discussion process include those that would be participating in in essence, the funding of those particular requests?
Go ahead, Terry.
Yes, I think that we've left that blank because it's kind of good to hear what the how the conversation's going around the table. But with those ones in particular, we will definitely want to clarify as part of the resolution who the person is planning on or intending on paying for that. So if that is not brought up or not clear, let's stop and circle back and make sure that participants are clear for especially those ones.
And just to follow up, if I may, through the chair, some of the municipalities do contribute to organizations, and I know I believe in your report there was a line in there around you will be directing some of those in case there's quote double dipping, that will go to those municipalities, and that may change then the structure of those that may be participating in those particular ones. Would that be correct?
Yes, so the City of Port Alberni has completed their process, and I have indicated the 2 grants that have applied here that were already awarded money through the city. Tofino and Ucluelet, I believe are in their process. So I will send this list out to those staff and let them know, and then they will advise me if there's any conflicts, and we'll bring those back to you so that you know before the end of our budget cycle here in March.
Great, thank you, Terry.
Director Beckett, then Director Cote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to make an observation and a comment. And I'll start with, I probably should have said this back when we were doing the proposed case initiative a couple of weeks ago when we were going through and, we were talking about, some of the projects and funding. So when I was reviewing the agenda for today, and Director Steer has already identified that there's a number of new applicants, of the 48 requests, 20 are new. When I look at the line item in 2023, it was 276, 642. If we were to fund everybody that's asking, all 48, it would be 552,478. So my observation moving forward, given the approach that we're taking so far with this budgeting process, is what percentage of an increase do we as directors, or do I as a director for Banfield want to consider? A 4% increase, a 10% increase, a 15% increase? Do we have some parameters in mind with respect to 2024? Certainly last year, Banfield had a significant increase, and understandably, so given some asset management challenges that we're having. But this year, what is acceptable to the community? And I'm concerned about, all of these wonderful applications and programs that are being offered, but what can we afford, and what is our threshold for our communities and for the region? Thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts.
Thank you, Director Becca. I think we're all thinking the same thing as you. Terry, do you have any comment?
Just that I will be tracking and by area, using this year's current assessed values, how much each area will be contributing to these grants. I could at the end throw it on, or I can share it after. And I would just say that a reminder today that approving or requesting that something be included in the financial plan does not mean it's approved at this point. So if you're wanting to support something or you're on the fence, you can either defer it and ask us to bring it back after you see the rest of the financial plan next Wednesday, or the opposite. We can always circle back to a grant and aid application if after and you see that your overall increases, you're looking for some opportunities to reduce that, then we can bring back some of these applications for further discussion. Yep, it's a tricky process, and it's not just one number growing, because it all depends on who's participating and how much each area is therefore contributing. That becomes complicated. I could plug in my laptop and share screen. Actually, I could probably zoom in and share screen at some point if we would like to see that once we get partway through it as well.
Does that answer your concerns, Director Becca?
Yes, it does. The challenge is today, going through the 48 and knowing, and I'm just going to be really candid with you. I'm not sure that I can support much of an increase for Bamfield in this process. So how do I decide on 20 additional applications and or the existing 28? We've done this every year and it works out, but it's very difficult. That's all I'm saying.
It is very difficult. Next is Director Cote, then Director Roth, and Director Jack. Go ahead, Director Jack.
So just on this specific topic, I do think that there's more work that we could do to develop a standing policy beyond what's already there to handle the money coming in and going out. And there are different approaches that we could take, but I think identifying a date by which we earmark how much money we have given, and then mandating that you can't really go up beyond that if you're applying, would be a good idea. So we should devote some time in the new year for that. I would point out as well is that this is renowned with staff and directors for being the slog that it is. So we have 43 items right now. We take 2 hours to do it. That's just under 3 minutes each. And that's if we got right to it. So this is one of those things where if you do the math, we have to pretty motor through these fairly quickly, and that doesn't feel good either. So there needs to be some other ways to go about doing it. And I think mandating a cap on how much more money someone who's coming to the table asking for is probably where we're going to have to start and go from there. Thanks.
Thank you. Another option that I thought of when I was going through this is have a cap on the total amount of money that we actually give away. That's another idea. Yeah, Director Roth?
That's what I was going to recommend, that we put a $5,000 cap on all award amounts for all of them. Make it fair.
Yeah, Director Shuck?
Sorry about that. Dr. Roth had a good idea with having a max per applicant, I guess is the word we'd use. What about like a total max spend for everyone combined as well? I don't know what that number is, but we should earmark to what we did on some date. Director Coaching, that's a good idea.
Yeah, Director Cote, sorry, I jumped ahead. I missed you.
That's okay. So on this topic, I don't agree with a $5,000 cap for grant, because we've had some where it's a one-time, we know it's a one-time, like the tall ships that came in and they asked for 10,000 or 20,000, whatever it was. That would exceed that amount. Things like that we wanted for support that come through the grant aid doesn't fit into that criteria. What I would suggest though is that we could, I'm not sure how we could take it out of the grant aids, but supporting the rescue squads, those 4 or 5 grant aids that we do, that we continually do. It's not a grant aid anymore when it's providing to that every year. That's what we said about the Marine Patrol. So we made it a service. So I don't know how we would go about that where we could know that was a contribution every year for those type of things. That, and then there's the Alberni, the wrestling that we contribute every year. So if we know that we're going to do that, is there some way to put that into a block?
Terry?
My one suggestion for today would be we could just deal with the ones that are returning grant aid applications and leave all the ones that are new and defer them till after you see the entire budget on the 14th. So we could go through all the ones that don't have a 0 listed in 2023 and figure out where we stand and how that looks like with your overall budget. And then at a future meeting, because we have a bunch of meetings booked for March that we just haven't booked as financial plan discussion meetings. So we could bring back the remaining grant aid applications and discuss those ones at that time. Once you kind of know where financially everything else is landing, that might be a suggestion.
Thank you, Director Minions.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I think we should be cautious of prioritizing ones that we've done before over new ones. I think that there's a lot of really great organizations here that maybe just have not been aware of the program in the past. And so I don't want to put ourselves in a position where we kind of give like a pre-approval to a select group of ones that get funds from us every year. I almost think the opposite. Ones that have not benefited from funds from us every single year should almost be, if we are going to prioritize, should be prioritized more than ones we've been funding in the past. So my preference would be that we go through them today as a preliminary step. And typically when we do this process, we have several that we kind of have more questions on that we don't want to make a decision on today. And then maybe when they do come back for our next round of this, we will have a bit of an overview of what we've kind of given preliminary approval to, what we haven't, where that puts us overall. We might want to scale back some of the amounts from there, but I would like to go through them fully as a group rather than separating them out. Just because I think that will lead to giving preference to ones we've already funded, and I don't personally think that that's the right approach. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Cote.
Thank you. I should have brought this up in the minutes that we approved, but just wondered, the PICs that we dealt with at the last committee of the whole, there was a lot of question around some of them. Will that be presented at the next committee of the whole or board meeting, or when will that be brought forward? Because that's going to make an effect on the budget as well.
Yeah.
Terry?
It will not be presented on the 14th because we just want to provide all the rest of the stuff. The meeting after that, which will be March 7th, I believe, a committee of the whole meeting, it'll be then. At this point is the plan. We're also working with Island Health to come and talk about their request for their funds for the regional hospital district. So we're trying to work that meeting in. So it's somewhere in that range.
Is the library coming?
Yes, the library is presenting on the 14th at the board meeting.
Heather, maybe you can give me some help here. Director Ralph put a motion on the floor to cap it, But because that wasn't done before the applications went, I don't think that we're able to do that for this meeting, but it's something that we can prep for next year.
I've made a separate document capturing all of the ideas that were presented today, so we can work on a new grant and aid process going forward. So I've captured that outside of the meeting minutes.
But we can't use it for today, correct? Because it wasn't stipulated in the application process. Terry?
Yeah, technically, like there's nothing that told them they couldn't apply for more, but there's nothing saying that the board can't choose to cap it as well.
Thank you. Director Sparrow?
Thank you. Was that motion seconded or just on the floor? Good, so it's not valid.
Director Roth?
Was it a motion or a recommendation? Oh, did I?
Okay, so there's no seconder, so we'll just move on and do it the way we've always done it. How's that sound? It's gonna be such a fun day. So as we talked about earlier, we'll go through each one. If there's comments that you want to make, or if you have intimate knowledge of that organization, please feel free to share it. And I want everybody to feel that they can make their comments in a respectful and considerate manner, and we'll accept it that way. The first one is Alberni Valley Rescue Squad. They are asking for $20,000. Is there any comments from anyone? Director Cote?
Thank you. In light of the fact that the library alone is a $40,000 increase just to Sprout Lake, that's just the increase. I'd like to go back to the $6,000 that they got previous years.
Terry?
Sorry, just with this one, it's a little bit trickier than I should know not to start with this one actually. But so with the AV Rescue Squad, we've been doing for a number of years $6,000 from the entire region, as well as an additional $6,000 from the Alberni Valley and Bamfield, because the board has historically talked about giving like the West Coast Inland Search and Rescue the same amount, but then when Alberni Valley Rescue Squad started asking more, we created this second kind of pot that was just the Alberni Valley and Bamfield for that secondary 6,000. So I just was looking for clarification, Director Cote, about whether you were talking about the two sets of 6,000 that we've historically done for them, or just 6 from all regions.
At this point, just 6 from all regions.
Director Roth?
I agree with Director Cote. That's a good idea.
So I'll take that as a motion and Director Roth second. Is that satisfactory? Any other comments? Director Sparrow?
I get that. There's a comment more about the putting of the service area that Director Cody was saying before. I'm just wondering if we should be careful with that. Doesn't it affect their grant and aids from other places because they are considered to be a non-profit separate organization? And once we give them the service area, we might actually infringe upon their other applications. So we should look at that before we decide to do it. Thank you.
Director Cote?
Thank you. I don't want to make them a service. That's why I was asking if there was another way to do it. And I'd just like to stipulate that on the reason why I'm saying 6,000, because I'd also like to make the recommendation for the West Coast Inland Search and Rescue Society for 6,000, the Alberni Marine Rescue Society for 6,000, Mid-Island Air and Rescue Society 6. That's how we've been done equity throughout the whole search and rescue, give them all the same amount in the past. And I'd like to make that motion if I could, so that we can move through these 4 with bringing the history forward. Thank you.
Okay, can you withdraw your first motion?
I can withdraw my first motion if I can make the second one.
Okay, do we have a second to that? Director Steer?
No, I'm not seconding that. I have concerns with going in that route, specifically around the Mid-Island Air Search and Rescue Society.
That was the one I had a concern about as well. So why don't we just keep doing them separately, and then you can make the motion of $6,000 if you're comfortable with that.
I'll go back to my first motion.
Okay. Are we doing this legally, Heather?
So I have the motion as moved by Director Cote and seconded by Roth. I just want to clarify the areas. So do I have all municipalities and electoral areas? Because in the report, I think you had Toquat.
So the treaty nations kind of work through this grant and aid process slightly differently because of the assessed values being so low. So if we can just stick with the motions being the all municipalities and electoral areas, I then send the listing of what's been approved here today to the directors for the treaty nations, and they go through their process at their council tables to decide if they want to contribute, and then they'll report back near the end of our budget process if they want to be part of that. So if we can just leave Toquat off at this time, unless Kristen, something has changed on your end.
No, that's good.
Go ahead, Director Steer.
Yeah, could I have the motion read out again so I'm clear on what it is that we're going to be voting on?
So that the Committee of the Whole recommend to the Board of Directors to award a grant and aid in the amount of $6,000 in 2024 to the Alberni Valley Rescue Squad with the following areas participating: all municipalities and electoral areas.
Okay, everyone's clear. Any final comments or questions? Director Cote.
Thank you. There was a second motion last year for different for the Alberni Valley for a second $6,000. I'd like to bring that back at the next opportunity to see where our budget is. If we can afford to add that, then I would add it at that time. Thank you.
Okay, Heather, can you just make a note of that to bring that back? Okay, thank you. Okay, any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is West Coast Inland Search and Rescue Society. Any questions or comments on this one? Does anyone from the West Coast want to make the motion on this one?
Director Steer, so moved.
I'll second.
Did you wish to do the $6,000?
As in the report, yes.
Thank you. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Director.
It says here, you said West Coast U1, it says here, all municipalities, EAs and so forth. Am I reading the wrong line? So we're all paying if we vote for this one. Okay, and it involves everybody. Okay, I just didn't quite understand what you're saying.
Director Roth?
In the grant and aid application form, they didn't ask for everyone. They asked, oh yeah, they did, entire regional district. Sorry, my mistake.
Okay. Everyone clear? $6,000 for the West Coast Inland Search and Rescue Society. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Port Alberni Victim Services Society. Any comments or questions? Director Roth?
I would like to move that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant and aid in the amount of $26,000, which is last year's amount, to the Port Alberni Victim Services Society with all City of Port Alberni and all electoral areas involved participating.
Terry?
Just to note that, are you wanting Area C Long Beach? They have not historically, it's just been A, B, D, E, and F. Okay. So she clarified that it's A, B, D, E, and F participating, and City of Port Alberni.
Did you have your hand up, Director Roth? Oh, Director Sega?
Thank you. Historically, I'm not sure what the usage is from the West Coast of the victim services. I know that the West Coast Resource Society tends to be addressing those needs on the West Coast.
So did you want to withdraw participation for your area?
What I have is that it was not ticked off by the original applicant. And I'm looking for where it was ticked off as everybody. I don't see that it was.
I have to clarify. So
Terry?
the motion on the floor right now is $26,000 from the city of Port Alberni and electoral areas A, B, D, E, and F. So area C is not included.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, so is everyone clear? Any final questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion.
Sorry, did we get a seconder?
Yes, we did.
And who was it?
Oh,
I don't think there was.
Oh, I thought someone did. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Oh, so Jack had a question, so he kind of stopped. I thought somebody did though. Do we have a seconder for this motion?
I'll second.
Sorry. So we have a mover and a seconder, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Port Alberni Marine Rescue Society. They're asking for $12,210, which is include City of Port Alberni A, B, D, E, F, and tow court. So any questions or comments? Dr. McClellan.
I just have one question because I don't remember the numbers. What is the percentage of Beaufort of these totals?
Do you have that, Terry?
You'll have to give me a couple minutes here.
Oh, well, tell me when you get it. It's not. I was gonna ask it earlier, but nobody saw my hand.
Oh.
Well, it's getting pretty late
Sorry.
already. I thought
I figured a quick workaround. Like 2%.
2%.
Dr. Roth?
Too high.
Has there been a motion yet, or can I make a motion?
No motion yet.
Okay, I recommend that the ACO Board of Directors award a grant aid in the amount of $6,000 in 2024 to the Port Alberni Marine Rescue Society, which would be divided between the city and electoral areas A, B, D, E, F, and tow port. Or if someone would like to change that, that's okay.
Heather?
I'm just, do we want to clarify that we're going to exclude Toquat for the time being, and Terry will send them the results of this for today, so we can just exclude Toquat. Thank you.
Dr. Cote?
Thank you. That does not exclude the other 3 First Nations. This will be sent to them as well. Thank you.
Any final questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll call for the motion.
Sorry, did we have a seconder?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further questions or comments, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Mid-Island Air Search and Rescue Society. They're asking for $6,216 by Jackets. Director Stair.
Yeah, I have some difficulty with this one in general, as much as I very much value the Mid-Island Air and Rescue Society. This particular request is for outer jackets, Arc'teryx outer jackets. They're valued at about $925 a piece. And so for a total amount of $6,216, I'm very uncomfortable with the amount of money for this particular item in this particular request, and I will not be supporting. And if there is support for it for the rest of the board, I would request that the District of Tofino not be one of the municipalities that contributes.
Dr. Roth?
I would like to make a motion that the Committee of the Whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors deny a grant need in 2024 to Mid-Island Air Search and Rescue Society.
Moved by Director Roth. Do we have a seconder? Did you second that, Director Steer? Second by Director Steer. Any other questions or comments? All in favor to deny this request? Any opposed? Motion carried. Director Cote?
Thank you. When do the applicants find out whether they're successful or not? And do they have another opportunity to speak to the board if they are not, if they're denied. Thank you.
Terry?
Historically, we don't let them know until the budget's adopted, so they won't be getting a letter till late March, early April. We are able to request further information on any grant or request that they come and speak if the board so chooses, but we don't automatically let them know right away.
Thank you. Okay, the next one is Alberni Valley Soaring Association, and my idea for this one, it's kind of a thinking outside the box, but I was wondering if you could refer that to the fire chief and he can determine if there's any merit to it. It might be something that would be useful. I'm just not sure if the fire chief would support it or not. And get his thoughts on it. Would that be something that we could look at? Director McClellan?
Yeah, I don't know what they would do to fight fires, but either we want to give them money or we don't, I would think, and they didn't get any last year. I've been trying to find out what it's all, who's all on it, what it's about, but haven't had any answers yet, so I'll have to vote no for both.
Director Roth and Director Cote.
I agree. I would say that, oh, sorry, that we, Beaver Creek wouldn't want to be in it. It says here that the organization is nonprofit, but it's not a nonprofit society. Is it something else, or I just don't understand that.
The question is your organization a registered nonprofit? So that word registered is the one. So they could be a nonprofit, but they're not registered in
Okay,
BC.
then I'm definitely out.
Yeah. Okay, so are you making that a motion, Jack, to deny this request? Okay, and Director Roth will second it.
Well, it's nice to know. Okay, I'll make that motion.
Any final questions or comments before we vote? All in support of denying this request? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Alberni.
Question?
Director Cote.
Thank you. Just with the process, is this not a open meeting? So people will be watching to find out if they can prove or
If they
deny.
want to.
Thank you.
Next on our list is Alberni Air Quality Society. They're asking for $10,000 and they were awarded $10,000 last year. And the city of Port Alberni areas A, B, D, E, and F participated. Is there any comments on this one? Director Roth.
I would like to opt out, mostly because I'm looking at the big picture and all of the other applicants, and I'd like to be fair with everyone, and it just seems like a lot.
Director McClellan.
Yeah, I'd like to opt out of that one too.
Any other questions or comments? Director Minions.
Thank you. I think that this is a really important service that's provided and has been for a long time in the Alberni Valley. I'm certainly comfortable with the city of Port Alberni staying in. However, I don't think it's reasonable to ask our taxpayers to compensate for other areas having withdrawn for whatever reason. So I think that when other areas are withdrawing from an amount, the overall amount needs to be reduced so that we're not putting additional pressure on the taxpayers of the areas that are staying in. So I would certainly vote in favor of supporting this initiative, but only if it is reduced by the amounts that Beaver Creek and Beaufort would account for if they were in for the full amount. Thanks.
Director Cote, then Director Sparrow.
Thank you. Wood stove, clean air is something that the regional district has been looking at especially for the Alberni Valley. We have very poor air quality. And I think that we need to maintain at least monitoring it. I think that an education to the community also is very important. We have the wood burning grants to change out your wood burning devices. I'd really like the other directors to reconsider the importance going forward that clean air really is something that we can help to educate people with, and how to take a look at that through a climate action kind of lens, and recognizing that there's a lot of people with asthma, with respiratory disease, and how bad the Alberni Valley really is. And that is this is something, an area I think that we really need to work on. Okay, so I agree with Mayor Minions that I don't want to be supporting other directors for the full amount, so we'll have to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sparrow, then Director Roth.
Thank you for that. So I'm gonna sort of say thing that Director Cody said about, you know, air quality and how it is, and we can't just keep the air in one area, not the other areas. We all live here, and we do have terrible air. If you look at all the indexes from this committee. My question is, so two people opted out. We have grants for certain projects here to get like wood stove replacements and that. How does that work? Because there's a rebate for that. Do we just start cutting off the rebates for those who don't want to participate in, or the rebate for the whole valley? How are we going to do this? Because we are supporting air quality for the rest of the valley, and they don't want to opt in, but they probably want the rebate program to go through. So how does it all work together if we don't actually all get together? That's the problem we're going to have moving forward. So
It's a good question. Terry, do you have an answer for that?
In that case, they'd be two independent things. The support from a grant and aid from this process is different than the wood stove exchange program, in that the wood stove exchange program is a provincial grant that the regional district has received. We received it a couple of years ago, and now it's taking us some time to spend it because we're not having the exchanges that we had hoped we were going to be getting. We do provide the society, the Air Quality Council, about, I believe it's about $3,000 a year from that grant to help support from an admin perspective. But yes, it does get complicated for sure. But they're kind of deemed separate. This is not a service. It is a grant to an outside organization.
Thank you, Director Roth, then Director Minions.
I would like to make a motion to recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant and aid in the amount that it would be, considering areas B and E opting out. So just as Mayor Minion said, whatever that be, $8,000 or the reduced amount to the Alberni Air Quality Society. Oh, okay, that'd be great.
So the two areas would contribute $1,177 or approximately $1,200. So maybe a grant and aid in the amount of $8,800.
Yeah, okay, that would be good. So that would be with areas, the city of Port Alberni, A, D, and F.
Director Minions?
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure first that was seconded because I'm not seconding.
There is no seconder as of yet.
Okay. I just wanted to ask a question around process. I know that our practice in the past has been individual directors can opt their areas out of different services, but I wonder if that really is correct. Like, we are a board as a whole, and air quality is a really great example of how that makes absolutely no sense. At the end of the day, if the Air Quality Council is given $9,000 instead of $10,000, ultimately they are doing the same work. We are just asking them to do it for less. They are not representing Beaver Creek and Beaufort. So as a collaborative that is looking at the greater good of the whole Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District, I just feel like that makes no sense whatsoever. I do want to make sure that if directors are able to opt out, that we are able to reduce contributions so that the rest of our areas or municipalities are not compensating for areas that are choosing to not participate. But in a service where we're all being represented, it doesn't seem correct that somebody could just opt out. So I would ask, I guess, that even if a director has said, they'd like to opt out, if I said I want to make a motion, which I guess I will make a motion right now, but then I'll leave room for staff to speak to process. I guess I would like to move that all areas of the Alberni Valley participate and approve a grant in aid of $10,000 for the Air Quality Council. And if there's a seconder, then I would like staff to speak to the process and how we're making these decisions, and just not like, does it make sense that an area director can just decide to opt their area out or not? Thank you.
I'll second that motion. Could I get someone to comment on the process from staff?
For sure. So there's lots of times in a regional district we don't have a lot of flexibility. Grant and aid is one where we do have a little bit of flexibility in the way that the language talks about the a grant comes from the area that it is provided to. So we are able to kind of create these multiple service areas to do the granting function. So in terms of legislation, we can remove areas and add areas as we would like. In terms of voting at the committee of the whole level, it's one director, one vote. When we get to the final financial plan adoption, it is a weighted vote of all members for the entire package. I think that answers your questions.
Thank you, Terry. Director Steer.
Yeah, could I just have the, sorry, and I agree 100% with Mayor Minions on this particular one, though. I would like, I didn't hear which, was it all municipalities or the Alberni Valley in the city of Port Alberni on this particular one? I do agree 100% with the argument brought forward. On this particular one, I just wanted to know if she did say all municipalities or city of Port Alberni.
No, it was the Alberni Valley.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we do have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Does everyone understand the motion? Any final? Director Cote and then Director Roth.
Thank you. I agree with the motion, but I'm very fearful about going down this path about opting in areas. If something comes up down the road, twice in my whole career, have I been forced to pay for something that I didn't want to be involved with. And because I have such a high assessment value, it really relates to a hit to Sprout Lake when really I don't believe that it should. So I'm wondering if we approve this, even though I believe that they should be in because it is a valley service that, you know, we all breathe air. I'm just afraid that this is going to bite me later. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Roth.
I would just like to have the vote recorded, please.
Thank you. Any final questions or comments? Oh, it's Director Beckett.
I'm sorry. You know, I'm way out in Banfield, yet I support this initiative because clean air, as many of the directors have said, affects us all. And I benefit from the work that's being done, you know, in the valley. And I think it's important for our community to recognize that clean air is important for everyone's health. But the motion concerns me when from what I'm observing, there's two directors that want to opt out, and we're forcing those two communities to participate. So similar to what Director Cote said, I'm concerned. I'm concerned about, you know, we've just started. We're on item number 7. And I don't want to have conflict as we go through this. For the sake of a couple more dollars, I'm happy to put that in and continue whether the two communities are in or out. And again, I know I'm not articulating myself very well, but you know, I look at the board as a team here, and I want to continue to you know, vote as a team, recognizing that there's give and take on everything that we do. And on the next 30 odd applications. So again, I apologize for not articulating it very well. This is a very uncomfortable vote.
Thank you, Director Beckett. Just a reminder, there was a motion on the floor for those two areas to opt out, and there wasn't a seconder, so we had to move on, and that was the next motion. So anyone who's not in favor of this motion does have the right to vote no. So, Director Cote.
Thank you. I am really feeling uncomfortable about this. I would love to vote in favor, but at this point, I figure that we all have to be in or we all have to be out. I really want to be in, but if we can't work together as a board for the betterment of our community, I think that we have more problems than just this vote. Thank you.
Did you have something to add, Director Beckett, or did you just forget to take down your hand?
I forgot to take down my hand, but further to what Director Cote said, is there any way that we could agree to park this for just so that we can move on and perhaps come back to it?
Thank you, Director Muniz, then Director Roth.
Thank you. I think whether we park this or not, it doesn't really necessarily address the issue. And I'd like to go back to my question around process, because as a collaborative, are we making decisions for the whole regional district as a team, or are we allowing each director to determine if they want to pay for something or not? That's not a board, not a collaborative. So like, that's not how we normally function. And I understand that we have the ability to individually pay, to split out each decision and determine who's going to be in and who's going to be out within the service, or, the functionality as Terry spoke to. But when it comes to the actual decision making, it is our role as a full board to make these decisions for the best interest. So I guess maybe I'm not articulating myself well either, and this is a challenging topic, but I think we can park this one, but we're going to have the same issue down the road if we don't determine the decision-making basis here. So, some directors may choose to pay for nothing. They're still going to receive the benefit of all of the services. Is that okay with the board, or is it not? And I believe that that's the point of a regional district, is to make decisions for the good of the future of the entire area. And in my opinion, that does not allow one director or two directors or all the directors to decide that they don't want to pay for things. That's why we have so many of us to sit around the table and hear everyone's input. And I hear the input from the two directors who don't want to pay for this service. But I don't believe that in the decision-making model of a regional district that it is their ability to determine they don't want to pay for it. It's the whole board's to make a motion and move forward. So I think our job is to take the input and then make the decision that is best for the whole regional district. I think that this is just one example, and if we don't kind of address some of that question, we're going to have this issue on several other areas coming up in the next 30 topics that are going to provide input to our whole areas, and some directors may choose to opt out of them. Thank you.
Does staff want to comment on that, or just move on? Okay.
Are we voting?
Just a moment, please, Jack.
I mean, it's hard for staff to comment on this. I mean, it is a debate of the board, and they're all valid points that are being brought forward. Unfortunately, the structure that we have around grants is exactly what we have, and the only resolution to it would be, to either provide different structure for the grant and aid process so that it binds in a different way, or to explore the creation of services where currently those services do not exist. And once a service is created and a structure and funding mechanism is put in place, then you do have that regional sort of movement. But the way these grants are structured is people can opt in or opt out, and that doesn't prevent the board from making a motion that counters that opting in and opting out. So it is a legitimate conundrum.
Okay, we have Director Roth, then Director Beckett, and we'll call the question.
I'd just like to say that I went through all of these and I'll show you. So I'm looking at the big picture. I'm not just looking at everything individually. And I've allotted myself so much that I think I can spend of my taxpayers' dollars, the people, the 1,200 taxpaying households in Beaver Creek. And I've distributed it to where I think it could be best used. So it's not necessarily about whether they provide a good service or a bad service or any of that. It's how much we can afford and how much my taxpayers can afford, or the people that voted me and elected me into office. That's who I represent. So that's what it's about for me. And it's the big picture.
Thank you, Director Beckett.
Thank you. I'm wondering, given the great discussion that we've had around the table, the value, including the last comments with respect to, how much can, your taxpayer afford. But would my two colleagues who are looking to opt out, would they reconsider, given the regional approach, with an eye to where we can save in some other areas so that we can accomplish and create a win-win for the board and for the taxpayers? Thank you again.
Director Roth, if we reduce the amount from $10,000 to $5,000, I would opt in.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for $10,000. So we'll have to, it's been seconded, so we'll have to vote on that motion. All in favor of them? Do you want to read it? It's been a while, Heather.
Yep. So the committee of the whole recommend to the ACRD Board of Directors that a grant in aid in the amount of $10,000 in 2024 be awarded to the Air Quality Society, with the following areas participating: the City of Port Alberni, areas A, B, D, E, and F.
Okay, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor of the motion?
Can I get you to read out the names,
Yes.
please, for the recorded vote?
Director Steer, Director Beckett, Director Minions, Director Sega, Director Coots, Director Haggard, and Director Sparrow. All opposed? Director Roth and Director McClement. Did you get it all, Heather? Perfect, thank you. Okay, we're moving on. Thank you, everyone.
So then each director now has to go by the majority, not like we've done over the years, unless something changes. I was last on here at one of these. It's a bit spooky, but as long as we know what the rules are, we'll go by them. And if you have another meeting that has to undo or redo, hey, it's no big deal.
Dr. McClement, there was a motion on the floor and nobody seconded it. So next time you need to second the motion.
I would like to call point of order on procedure.
Go ahead.
It was explained to us that each area does have the option of withdrawing or opting in and out. That's legislative.
Terry?
No, the way I explained it is like when you make the motion can include what areas you deem to be participating. And so now that the board or the directors, not the board because we're at the cow level, but the directors have made a motion and passed the motion, it is how it passed. Yes.
Again, I just remind everyone that there was a motion on the floor and nobody seconded it. So, okay. You were sleeping, Jack.
Well, actually, you told me to wait.
Okay, we're gonna move on.
Didn't you tell me to wait though for that motion? Like, no. Yeah, you did.
Savannah?
Additional, like I'm new to this, and to your question and what you were saying about areas and our conversation earlier, when it comes to areas, talking about events and community, and economic development and job creation, climate and environmental, that's what you mean, or you?
I'm referring to like the actual each municipality and electoral area and the treaty nations. Yes, like not the categories of grants. Yeah.
Okay, the next one on the list is Redfish Restoration Society. They're asking for $15,000. Last year, they were awarded $7,500. In the areas that participated were Tofino, Ucluelet, and Area C. Is there any questions or comments, Director Steer?
Yeah, Redfish, once again, this is an area that it'll have to be referred back because the district of Tofino, I know that Redfish does have some applications. And for the sake of process here, I'm very comfortable with Redfish, but I do have to say, in terms of reading over the application, and one of the challenges with these application process, among many, is that when you don't have an itemized budget, it's unclear of where that money will be spent. One of the requirements of some of the other granting processes, you have much more of an itemized budget. In this particular case, it's very vague. There's a generalized around the described service will be to engage in some, if I read this correctly, some tables where they'll promote some of their initiatives. I'm not comfortable with the amount of $15,000. I would like to reduce that to the amounts that, and I believe I'm have to slip back, but I think about 5,000 or 7,500 was what we had given in previous year, and I'd have to slip back here. But I'm not comfortable with 15,000. I'll look to the other directors that would be supporting this one, municipality and electoral area directors, in terms of this particular one. And get their input on that. But I would reduce the 15 in half in this particular case to move forward. But I would like, I can see the other participating folks to have comment on that.
Director McEwen, then Director Sega.
Thank you. Our grant and aid meeting is tomorrow. And so I have that agenda package in front of me, and they are requesting 2,500 from the district of Ucluelet. The items that they are saying that they'll spend that money on is very almost exactly the same as what's in this package for the ACRD. So there is a bit of double dipping there, but having said that, this organization does a lot of fantastic work. When they report to us at our committee of the whole meeting, they it's hard to even write down all the things that they do. They're just so prolific in helping with the environment. So I would like to give them something, but I don't know what the process is now that you know that they are applying to Tofino and Ucluelet at the same time.
Harry, what is the process? Can you just clarify that again? After they've applied for through the community investment program, do we pass the motion today, and if they get it, then we withdraw the money, or do we park this until we find out they've been approved?
It kind of depends on the timelines for the other areas and where they're at, but we basically keep in communication. And in the past, they've different societies have applied for different things at different organizations. In this case, I'm almost suggesting that we refer this application to the West Coast Committee meeting. That's on February 28th. And then we can discuss it after District of Ucluelet's had a meeting. I'm not sure, Director Steer, if you guys are having a meeting about grants before then, but would give us some time and maybe some idea of how to approach it, if it's better to do it as a West Coast region or to do it just individually from your areas at that point.
Okay, Director Sega.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree that Redfish definitely do a lot of really good work, that not only in terms of supporting visitor understanding of our ecosystem, the fragility of the marine habitats, and help with cleanups, and they've also taken on the Strawberry Isle research piece. So there's an extended piece sort of that they're going to have to expand their funding. I think maybe if we can get back to the society and ask them to be more clear about which pieces they want which organization to support, I think everybody would be happier with that. I mean, in terms of the marine habitat, ecosystem, climate change piece, I certainly would support that 100%. But how that shakes down in terms of who's going to fund what. I think after the West Coast meeting, it'll be clear and we can bring it back to another vote, if that's okay.
that
Do you need a motion to that effect?
Until the West Coast Committee meeting, then we'll have a clear idea of what's been approved by the Ucluelet and Tofino.
So do you need a motion to that effect?
Do you need a motion for that, Heather? Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to move that we revisit this application after the West Coast Committee meeting. Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's moved in second to park this until the West Coast Committee meeting. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Surfrider Foundation Pacific Rim Chapter. Does anybody from the West Coast want to speak on this organization if you have intimate knowledge of it, or?
I could speak to it. I have intimate knowledge of the, and I see Director Minions has her hand up as well. Once again, this is an application that I know Surfrider will, I believe, is going to be applying to several of our municipalities in the region. It might be another one where we want to park this one as well. But I'll see what Director Minions has to say on this before making that motion or suggestion.
Director Minions?
Thank you. I know Surfrider does fantastic work, predominantly on the West Coast, obviously, but with an interest in coming into the community. I definitely would be interested in possibly some form of contribution to them from the city of Port Alberni. But I think personally the amount that they've requested is too high for the time being and with the other applications that we have. I also wanted to kind of note that it's just an interest to come into the community, and I don't think that we've seen activity from them yet, although I do note that they came to a meeting and talked about kind of some preliminary ways into the community a year or so ago. I also wondered around kind of duplication, as we do have really fantastic initiatives from Coastal Restoration Society going on in the community around a lot of ocean cleanups and plastics and stuff like that. So I think there's room for all, for sure. So, yeah, this is a tough year for the grant and aid. So this is one that I would maybe love to see come back next year for inclusion from the city of Port Alberni. But at the amount they're requesting right now, I think it would be challenging to support. Thanks.
Dr. McEwen?
Yes, thank you, Chair. They have an application into the District of Ucluelet for 4,800, which we will be looking at our Committee of the Whole meeting tomorrow. So I agree to park this one until it's seen, you know, who they're applying to and for exactly which projects.
Thank you. Is that a motion, Director McEwen?
I will make that a motion.
Seconded by Director Steer. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is West Coast Aquatic Management Association. They're asking for $12,000 and they received $12,000 last year. And it said all municipalities, EAE and EAs in Tilcourt last year supported this initiative. Director Steer.
Yeah, once again, comment on so we, as the former appointed representation of the West Coast Aquatic, we no longer have representation on that board. We have historically funded that for many years in terms of the program support. I just would, in terms of, once again, the requested amounts this year, double. From previous years. I would look to the board in terms of, I'm certainly comfortable with supporting them again, but we may want to look at a reduced amount, considering the fact that we also are not having that representation on there directly. We do have Tani come and speak to us and give updates to the ACRD board. But I would suggest that in the particular amount of work that's provided and the support that we could give in lieu of all the other wonderful applications, that we might look at a reduction in that amount. And I would look to the rest of the board to see if that would be acceptable.
Director Roth?
I agree, and I'd like to make the motion that the committee of the whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant and an aid in the amount of $6,000 to West Coast Aquatic Management Association, with the following areas participating: all municipalities and electoral areas.
Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Director McClellan. Any final questions or comments? Director Mastangio?
Did they change their name, or I formerly remember them as a society, not a management association, but maybe that's just me. Did they change their name last year from society to management association?
I will have to look back. I feel like they have changed their name. I'm not sure at what point. Let me take a look for you.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion on the floor is for $6,000. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next on our list is Ucluelet Aquarium Society. They're asking for $20,230. Last year, they received $12,500. And the area participating is Tofino, Ucluelet, and Area C. Director Steer.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Yeah, this is an excellent organization, but once again, I will be requesting a reduction in that. They do tremendous work, and it is an incredible community support, specifically, obviously, at the other end of the peninsula and Area C, but the District of Tofino more than supports the aquarium, Ucluelet Aquarium. The amount and for the specific program areas that are being requested, I don't know, and I look to Mayor McEwen, Director McEwen, to see if, in fact, there is a grant application into the District of Ucluelet. That being said, I'm more than happy to support, but I would be looking at reducing that amount from the 20,000 plus requested from the organization. I'll look to the other directors that would be participating and look for their support on a reduction in that $20,000 amount.
Director McEwen or Director Sega, do you have any comments? Director McEwen?
Yes, thank you, Chair. They have not applied to the District of Ucluelet for this grant in aid section.
Director Sega, do you have any comments? Director Steer?
Yeah, and through the chair, back to the electoral director and Director McEwen, would you be comfortable in a reduction of that amount? I would, if we could cut it in half, that would be acceptable from the Tofino end of things. Once again, as has been brought up, we are very much overextended in our grant applications, but I do want to support the organization. I think it's very valuable. And I see your hands going up, so I'll listen to what you have to say.
Director Sega?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. They really do excellent work, and I know that they are collaborating with other organizations as well. And this is one of those things I'm almost tempted to just refer it to the West Coast Committee, or I can definitely agree on the $10,000 amount for right now, considering they haven't applied, obviously, in Tofino or Ucluelet either.
Director McEwen?
Yes, I would be happy to vote for the $10,000.
Okay, so I'll take that as a motion. And seconded by Director Sega. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Alberni Valley Food Security Society, they're asking for $14,000, and this is a new application. Is there any questions or comments? Director Roth.
I would like to make a motion in a reduced amount, because being that this is a first-time application, I would like to move that the Committee of the Whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant and aid in the amount of $5,000 in 2024 to the Alberni Valley Food Security Society, with the following areas participating: the City of Port Alberni, A, B, D, E, and F.
I'll second.
seconded by Director Minions. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Tofino Community Food Society. This is, they're asking for $5,600, and this is also a new application. Director Steer, are you familiar with this organization?
I am, and once again, I apologize for not having the Tofino grants. There it is. We have a different process for this, so I haven't directly seen. But I will say this is another one that maybe if we could refer to the West Coast Committee to give further feedback to the board on this particular application, might be in the best interest of everyone.
Thank you. I'll take that as a motion. Seconded by Director McClellan. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. The next is West Coast Food Society. My concern with this one, they're asking for $8,637, and it's a new application, but I feel like he did not put enough information in his application to make an informed decision, such as what school is he at, how many kids he goes through, how long is the program. Is it a program that goes for a short time, like 6 weeks? Is it all year long? Is it an after school club? Like, I'm just can't make an informed decision, so I can't support it at this time. Director Roth?
I would like to make a motion that the committee of the whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors deny a grant and aid in 2024 to Westco Foods Society.
Moved by Director Roth, second by Director McClellan. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. The next is the Alberni Farmers Institute. They're asking for $5,000, and this is also a new application. Is there any comments, Director Roth?
I would like to make a motion that the committee of the whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant aid in the amount of $5,000. It seems reasonable to me. In the 2024 to Alberni Farmers Institute. And it would be, the areas participating would be the City of Port Alberni areas and all electoral areas. You're slipping.
Well, nobody else seconded.
Director Minions, I don't know if you have an opinion on this, but it really does support rural and supporting farmers. So I'm not sure if the City of Port Alberni, how it would benefit, but I guess it would benefit from food security. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I thought the same, but I think on a bigger picture, I think a lot of their activities tend to be focused around the regional district, just or around the regional areas, just as a result of that being where the farms and focus are. That said, I think that it supports food security in the Alberni Valley and on a greater scale. So I'm happy to support it. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so the motion, Dr. Sparrow?
Just a point of clarity, when you said all regional district areas, you didn't mean Long Beach, City, the Valley areas?
That's right. I should have
And
clarified.
Banfield?
Yeah, A, B, D, E, and F. Would that be correct? And City of Port Alberni. Oh, exclude Banfield.
A.
You okay with that, Heather?
So City of Port Alberni area B, D, E, and F.
Yeah, unless Banfield wants in.
Okay. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Connective Support Society in Nanaimo. And also have difficulty with this one as well. I think it's a great initiative and I fully supported it last year, but I actually reached out to one of our service providers within the city, and he knew of the organization. They are based out of Nanaimo, but he did not know of any people that he worked with that had benefit from this program, but he was going to reach out to his support workers to see if they knew more. So on this one, I felt like I needed more information as well, like how many clients have they actually supported. They did give us an amount, but I would like a better number. to get, and what kind of organizations they're working with. Are people just going online? Like, I need a little bit more information. Director Roth?
I would not, I don't want to support this initiative, mostly because there is overlapping with services that already exist. BC Housing has a program that's very similar to this. So I kind of don't like that. It's definitely part of our policy. Part 2, eligibility 1D.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that program through BC Housing.
Yeah, they do offer help for rent.
That's new information. I'll have to look that up. So, Mayor Minions, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Thank you. I was just going to, I do know that BC Housing, through some of their support workers and outreach programs that they fund, will offer support in specific situations. I do think that it's a little bit more rigid than this program, and I think there's a lot of value in this program. That said, I'm not overly convinced that they have integrated themselves into the community as much as I think they should have by this point in time, since we did provide funding last year, albeit not as much funding as they asked for. And I think it was only the city in one area that contributed. But I would have liked to have seen them really integrate with the service providers that exist here to get as much kind of awareness for the program as possible in their first year kind of entering in. And I don't think that we saw that. So I would be happy to review an application from them again in the future. But for this year, given the other requests that we have, I'd be okay with not providing additional contribution. Thank you.
Would you like to make that a motion, Mayor Minions? Or Director Minions?
Sure, I will move that the board deny the request for 2024.
Second by Director Roth. Director Sparrow, you have a question or comment?
Oh, yes, I do. So looking at this, the city of Port Alberni and one area contributed last year, not in 2022. So in 2023, Cherry Creek was not here due to a Supreme Court decision, and yet somehow I look down and I see that I'm a contributor. So the people that were complaining a little while ago about maybe not getting their voice out and maybe not getting outvoted, I got to spend money that I wasn't even allowed to speak on in this room. So is it true that we put money towards this that we weren't even here to vote on?
I'll take responsibility for that, Director Sparrow, because none of the other areas supported it, and I thought it was a great initiative, and I'm from Cherry Creek. So I said, Cherry Creek people have a heart, so let's put Cherry Creek in there, because there was no representation.
That's illegal? Okay.
It is. Unfortunately, there was no director here from Cherry Creek.
True. Do not say no legally. However, yeah, I know you're saying, but I don't agree with the program as it per se because of what it does. And there is other programs out there, and it's not money well spent right now. Like, it's been reported already. So, and I would pretty appreciate it. If we take our own decision.
So
Thank
you weren't here.
I'm here this year, so I
Okay,
know-
so
I
you're
know others-
seconding that motion, or did Director Ross
He's
second
already
it?
seconded. That's what
Okay.
it already has happened last year too, a couple of times in Cherry Creek, as you'll find out.
So I'll call for the motion. All in favor to deny the request? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Port Alberni Backpack Program Society. They're asking for $5,000, and last year they received $5,000. Any questions or comments, Director Roth?
I would like to make a motion that the committee of the whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant aid in the amount of $5,000 in 2024 to the Port Alberni Backpack Program Society, with the following areas participated: City of Port Alberni, B, D, E, and F.
Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is Stage Haven Society. They're asking for $5,396, and last year they received $5,290. Is there any questions or comments on this one? Director McClellan.
I would move we have a grant and aid to the Sage Haven Society of $5,000 for 2024. Make it even.
Would anybody like to second that motion? I'll second that motion, Director McClellan. Any questions or comments? Director McEwen?
Thank you. I see that Ucluelet contributes to this, but I'm not sure how Sage Haven benefits the West Coast. If anybody can answer that.
I do know that they go to Banfield, but I'm not sure if they go to Ucluelet, because you have your own organization, do you not?
Yes, we do. West Coast Resources, yeah.
So Jack, you didn't specify what areas. Can you take Ucluelet off there?
Yeah, if Ucluelet doesn't want on, I think they have a right to say no and just reduce the amount by what they would have paid.
So you want to reduce the amount?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have it at my fingertips. It would be $707 or $700 if you just want to round it.
Would be $4,300, correct? Okay, would you like to amend your motion, Director McClellan?
That button ain't working. Yes, I would like to amend the motion that we give to the Sage Haven Society $4,300 2024.
Yeah. Any final, and I'll second that. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Literacy Alberni Society. They're asking for $18,000, and this is a new application. Oh, Susan. Thank you. Forgot about that. Thank you, Susan. Next on the list is Literacy Alberni Society. They're asking for $18,000 and it's a new application. Is there any questions or comments, Director Roth? Or Director Cote, sorry. I'm looking at Susan.
Thank you. I believe in literacy, but I don't want to support this at this time. I'd make a motion that we deny this application.
Is there any questions or comments? Director McClellan.
Just wondering why they haven't ever applied before and what they suddenly need money for, lost funds for. It'd be interesting to hear another time.
Director Minions.
Thank you. I am curious why the motion specifically to deny rather than considering a motion for less funds, which I would personally support. I think just because an organization has gotten by without us before doesn't mean there's not a valid need today for them to come to us. And I think we should welcome new organizations in rather than being sort of like an ongoing expected operating, account for people or for different organizations, basically. So I would definitely support this one for a lesser amount.
Director Cote, then Director Roth, then Director Steer.
Thank you. One of the biggest reasons is this is a duplication of services. My library cost that I can't change has increased $40,000. Just the increase. So I see it as a duplication of services that I can't afford. Thank you.
Director Roth, then Director Steer.
I believe there's legal issues here and I don't know enough about them and it makes me fearful of supporting them. Thank you.
Director Steer, did you have your hand up earlier?
I did, but I think I'm sensing the direction that the board is going. I would just say that we have quite a few literacy services out on the West Coast. I would not be comfortable with the District of Tofino participating in this, although my wife is a speech pathologist and is directly involved in literacy, so I highly support the work that's being done, but I just don't think it would be appropriate for us on the West Coast to be supporting this particular application.
To answer your question, Director McClellan, I believe they're trying to gear up to get back to pre-COVID levels. So that's why they need the extra funding. They're trying to expand their programming according to their application process. And I don't agree with Director Cochi. I don't think they're duplicating services of the library because they do a lot of tutoring and things like that. That's not what the library does. But there is a motion on the floor and has been seconded. All in favor of the motion? Not yet. I was waiting for Heather to count. Can the people on Zoom, can you raise your hands again, please? Oh. Any opposed to the motion?
Opposed.
Motion carried. Okay, we're a third of the way through. Okay, and I'm going to recuse myself on this one. Are you back, Director Jack? Would you like to take over for this one?
All right, thank you, everyone. So we're on item GIA 20, the Port of Bernie Community Action Team. So I'm wondering, is there anybody who can introduce this, or do we have a, go ahead, Director Roth.
I noticed on the application, it says that it is not registered nonprofit in BC, nonprofit society. And in the criteria for the policy, it says that you must be nonprofit society, or not society, but a nonprofit organization. So I don't know how we draw this line.
Yeah, I can see that the thing, it states is your organization nonprofit, and then says is your organization registered nonprofit. It says no. So it's just on page 117.
And then our policy says must be a nonprofit organization.
For clarity, if I can, so the policy does say must be a nonprofit organization, which their application says that they are. Is your organization nonprofit? They say yes. Is it a registered nonprofit society? No.
Yeah, Director Roth, go ahead.
So then what is it?
It may be that this is their first fiscal year. That doesn't sound right, though. Community Action Team? Go ahead, Director Clement.
Yes, is there a motion on the floor? And I would like to move that applications GIA 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 be referred to another meeting and get more information. So it looks like there's some duplicative services in here. And I don't say any of them are bad. In fact, the 25 is a very important service, although they haven't asked for much money. So anyway, that's my motion, if it gets a second.
Can we have a seconder? Director Roth, go ahead.
Yeah. Wanted to second.
Okay. Do we have any comments? Terry, go ahead. Or Daniel, then Terry.
Although I appreciate the expediency of a block, Director Haggard excused herself for GIA 20, and she may have comments on the rest of that block.
Okay. Terry, go ahead.
I guess also if you're requesting more information, staff will need to know what sort of information are you looking for us to get clarity on.
It might be different for each of them, so it might help to, yeah. Director Roth, go ahead.
I was wondering about getting clarity as far as our policy goes, part 2, eligibility 3, where it says a regional district will not provide a grant aid to subsidize activities that are the responsibility of senior levels of government. So that's something I'd like addressed.
That's in the policy part, right? So you have to open up the other document. Do you remember what section that is?
Yeah, it's part 2, eligibility 3.
Okay, thank you. So I'm wondering, would it be possible to have an amending motion just to the table and refer item? We just restrict that to item GIA 20. Would you?
Mine actually, that's more about GIA 22.
Yeah, but so just because we have one of our directors contacted out on 20, we just restrict our, yeah.
Sorry, so
Yeah, could you
forget my
move that?
comment. Or what did you want me to do?
So we just amend what Director McClellan was
Yes.
saying just to this one for now, and
Sure.
then we can do each of them in succession after.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yes.
And then do we have a seconder, Director McClellan? That okay?
Sure, I'll second that, what you just said.
Okay. So this is an amending motion just to make it so that it only refers to GIA 20, and then we'll take them all in time. Although I do appreciate the attempt to save time, Director McClellan. Any further comments? This is on the amending motion. Director Roth, go ahead.
Can you please tell me the motion then? What is?
So Director McClellan had originally asked for a motion for GIA 20 all the way to 25 to be tabled and referred to, I think you said another committee, right? Or to staff, I can't remember.
Actually, I said a future meeting, but the staff would have to come back to report. And what, it just on one of them, it doesn't make much sense, but the concept, the motion was that they come back and see what overlapping services, because I think there's a lot of overlapping services in there, but I could be wrong.
Okay, so maybe we just add to it to go to investigate overlapping services as well as, yeah, okay. So
Thank you.
we can do that for all of them as well. But I think just going back to a future meeting is probably the best way to do it. So that original wording is probably the best. Okay, with that in mind, all those in favor of the amending motion? Okay, I'll declare the motion carried. And then the main motion now is just to refer this one to a future meeting. Okay, all those in favor? Oh, Director Steer, you had a comment, sorry? No? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, motion carried, thank you. So since the vice chair is set up here, I figure she can continue sitting here and chairing if she's willing to. I was planning on staying, but if you want to continue chairing, that's good because you're already set up here. And I've been using your device, so. All right, thank you. So the motion that we've done so far is to take item 20 and refer it to its future meeting for some clarification on some questions that Director McClellan had asked. Okay. You might need to go into detail about that for the next one, though.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is ADAPT's Youth and Family Services. They're asking for $8,112, and this is a new application. Dr. McClellan.
Yes, I don't know if I'm allowed to try this again, but I would like to see numbers 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 referred to for more information on what services are overlapping. We haven't had them before. And I believe there's a lot of overlapping services in these groups, and I think we should find out, A, if I'm right, and B, if they are, then adjust our requests appropriately.
Dr. Roth?
I'll second that, but I'd also like to add that we need clarification on whether whether there's compliance with our policy, part 2, eligibility 3, where it says a regional district will not provide a grant and aid to subsidize activities that are the responsibility of senior levels of government. So I'd just like that to be looked at too.
So we have a motion on the floor. Are you seconding that motion then, Director Roth? Okay. Director Jack?
I had a question in regards to the motion. Is there meeting time that can be devoted to this? Like there is time in the future to have this discussion? And if not, we'll have to find a time to do it.
Yes, we have basically every Wednesday booked in March as tentative meetings to discuss future financial planning things that come up. So we'll definitely add it to that list.
Thank you. I knew the answer to that, but it needed to be said out loud for everybody's edification. Thank you.
Director Johnson and Director Steer.
I guess I just wanted to point out that GIA 24 is for the West Coast, not the Alberni Valley. So I don't know if that one needs to be compared.
Director Steer? We can't hear you, Tom.
Sorry, look, I thought it was off. Yeah, I agree with Director Johnson. There's some questions around grouping these all into one. I'm uncomfortable with that. And the request for further information around overlapping services and then specifically to Director Roth's addition to that around senior levels of government and those responsibilities. One of the issues that comes up for me, each one of these individually would take a tremendous amount of time for staff to be able to do that comparison. And the second part of that, there is a lot of information that we can do as individual directors to be looking at those actual applications to see for ourselves if those are applicable. I'm very uncomfortable grouping these all into one and having staff go through that process. But that being said, that's just my opinion.
Thank you, Director Sega.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that as far as I'm concerned, I've read up on the GIA 24 and it doesn't fit within the other ones that are to be addressed in the future. And just in speaking to it, we have some stores that do the recycling of stuff as well as the recycle committee locally. So I'm not sure that this application, I can see it being more of a headache than a help. But that's so what I would consider doing is withdrawing that from the block of the previous motion and having it sent to the West Coast Committee.
Dr. Jack?
Yeah, I'd second that, just taking it out of this motion.
Are you okay with that, Director McClellan? Okay. Okay, can we vote on the amendment? Oh, sorry, Director McEwen has her hand.
Yes, thank you. I was going to suggest it be referred to the West Coast Committee. They are also applying to the District of Ucluelet for $5,750. I haven't read up to see if it's for the same projects as what's they've applied to for the ACRD. So West Coast Committee would make the most sense.
Director Minions?
Thanks. Sorry, I just had to step out for a moment, so I wanted to confirm what the motion is that we're voting on, if it could just be voiced before we vote. Thanks.
Heather?
Okay, so the main motion, as moved by Director McClellan, was to defer grant and aid 21, 22, 23, 24, 25 to future meeting to find out more information on the duplication of services. Director Sega made a motion to amend the main motion to remove grant and aid 24 and refer it to the West Coast Committee, and that amendment was seconded by Director Jack.
Director Jack, did you have a comment? Did you have your hand up?
No, I just was going to explain the exact same thing and it wasn't my place. So thank you.
You're used to sitting up here. Thank you. So we have an amended motion on the floor. Could we vote on the amendment, please? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. So now we're going to vote on the motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. So that will take us to GIA 24, West Coast Community Resources Society.
Yeah, because
See, we took that one off.
yeah.
Oh, deferred it. Okay.
Okay, sorry.
So we need a motion to defer it though.
Yeah.
Did we do that? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's
Okay. Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce, they're asking for $10,000 and last year they received $4,000. Director Roth.
I would like to move that the committee of the whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant and aid in the amount of $5,000 in the 2024 to the Alberni Valley Chamber of Commerce with the following areas participating. And it would be the city of Port Alberni and all electoral areas.
Director Cote, then Director Minions.
Thank you. So this is the Chamber of Commerce. Sport Lake will donate $1,000. Thank you.
Director Minions.
Thank you. The city of Port Alberni can't contribute here. We contribute very significantly already, so it would be double dipping. Thanks.
Director Roth? So if this is double dipping, then they're ineligible, is that true?
Terry, can you respond to that?
Yeah, so the city of Port Alberni is unable to provide through our grant and aid process because they're providing directly. So they're still able to come and request for funds from the other areas of the regional district, but the city of Port Alberni cannot contribute through the process.
So would you like, they have it, your motion hasn't been seconded yet, so would you like to amend your motion to A, D, E, and F areas for $1,000 each?
Yeah.
And I'll second that. Perfect. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. The next is Vancouver Island North Film Commission. They're asking for $10,000 and last year they received $5,000. Director Cote.
Thank you. I think that they do bring value to the our regional district. So I would make a motion that we give them once again $5,000. And that's all munis and EAs.
Moved by Director Cote, second by Director Roth. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion?
Oh.
Any opposed? Oh, sorry, Director Jack.
No, that you can finish it. It's a question for.
Okay. Can we just call for the motion again? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Comment?
Yeah, just for Terry through the chair. If Kuwait is interested in contributing to the Island North Film Commission, is that something that we can do after the fact and it just reduces for everybody?
Yes, what we'll do after this meeting is I will send the treaty directors that sit on the table, as well as the CFOs, a list of what was approved here at today's meeting and give your councils an opportunity to decide if they want to contribute to it. And if they could just let us know by the time we adopt at the end of March, that would be perfect.
End of March, thank you.
CEO?
Maybe with that referral, we can add a comment. We did meet with the Film Commission and with the various jobs and training programs that they have created on the Mid-Island. They're asking to see if we can explore some longer term service agreements so they can actually build up some momentum. I told them this year that all we had is a grant application, so we didn't have time, so they applied. But perhaps with the nations, it would be a worthy conversation to see if they are considering, if they would consider a multi-year, because it is part of their ongoing request.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is City of Port Alberni Economic Development. They're asking for $10,500 and last year areas A, B, D, E, and F contributed. Director Cote.
Thank you. I'd make the motion that we repeat what happened last year, so Sprout Lake would be paying $3,000 towards this.
Director Roth, did you have your hand up?
Well, I would like to Beaver Creek to contribute 1,000.
Director Sparrow.
Thank you again. I noticed that last year, once again, I was contributing greatly to this thing by 300%, not being here. If you look at what happened 3 years ago, it's pretty well done by population base. For those under 2,000, paid a lower amount than those over 2,000 by population. So I'd like Cherry Creek to drop down to under 1,000 until we get to such a point as we have 2 electoral votes, and then we can probably look at going to 3,000. Right now, I think 1,000 will be fine. Thank you.
Did you have your hand up, Director McClellan?
Yeah, this is, those amounts are pretty historical and been going on in my memory for quite some time, almost what they are. And I don't have a problem with what it is. The Economic Development Commission used to be run by the regional district and had a lot of difficulties and ran into some problems, and the regional district asked the city to take it over and contribute a bit of money towards it. And that's what the directors at that time came up with.
Thank you. So right now we have a motion that are, we don't have a motion, do we?
Director Cote started a motion, but I don't feel like we have a solid motion.
Does anybody want to make a solid motion? Director Roth.
I move that the Committee of the Whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant name in the amount of, I've got to add it up here. Okay, so Area A, $1,000, Area B, $500, Area D, $3,000, Area E, better make that $1,500, and Area F, $1,000. To the City of Port Alberni Economic Development.
Director Minions, and then Director Jack.
Thank you. I have a bit of a challenge with kind of arbitrarily changing of the amounts for a service that the city is paying, I think, $250,000 a year for. I almost like, we talk about this every year, and I know there's no good way to do it, but I feel like this should be something we move toward, a fee for service, an agreement that's consistent, or the city's economic development position that provides a whole lot of value to the regional areas, just does not represent the regional areas anymore, for what the cost of this service actually is and what the regional areas contribute. I think it's fantastic service. I think to arbitrarily reduce those amounts is a bit insulting to the service that is provided for the cost that actually is associated with it. So I have a bit of a fundamental issue with this. I think it's arbitrarily reducing something that again, you're going to get anyways. And our economic development manager and team is going to support Alberni Valley growth and initiatives regardless. And it's just kind of one more step towards reducing what you pay toward it, and it just doesn't feel right. So I think it's a greater conversation. If areas don't want to contribute, then maybe we should be looking at a different model. Maybe the regional districts should get their own economic development function if you think there's value in economic development generally. So I think maybe a greater conversation for another day, but if amounts are going to be reduced arbitrarily when we've kind of already agreed to what they were, when there's been no inflationary increases in, I think, a decade, it feels very much like a complete lack of appreciation for the service that's being given.
I agree with Director Minions. Pat Deacon is one of the hardest working people at the City of Port Alberni, and he gladly gives up a lot of time and he does a lot of work. So if any of your residents in the electoral areas are employed, chances are that Mr. Deacon has something to do with it, whether it's a new business or an existing business. Director Roth.
It seems odd that this is in the grant need. It doesn't fit. You know, it's not a nonprofit organization. I mean, the city, I guess you can consider it a nonprofit organization, but it doesn't fit in here, especially if there's fixed costs and there's some kind of agreement behind this, as Mayor Minions was talking about. So it just doesn't fit.
I don't think there's a formal agreement, is there, Danielle? Terry?
I can provide the history lesson. There was an economic development service back in the day that became a very large, hard to move engine, would probably be the best way to describe it. I'm looking to Director McClellan. So at that point, it was dissolved, but nothing was put back in its place. So probably about 15 years ago, when the city decided to invest in economic development, they did come looking for something. There's been talk about needing to look at a service establishment at some point, and whether that would be just a small service to contribute to the city of Port Alberni's economic development function, or something larger. As we talked a lot about economic development in 2023 with the closure of the highway and the wildfire and all the economic development aspects that went along with that. But nothing's ever been formalized. So in lack of a service, there is this mechanism, because City of Port Alberni is considered a nonprofit. We can provide them a grant and aid without a service agreement to provide some funds to support. Definitely would be a great discussion to have about what the future of economic development is. It just hasn't really become a priority at this board table to date.
Thank you, Terry. Director Jack?
Yes, so just in reviewing the application, I kind of agree with a couple of points. I agree with Director Minion's assertion that this is something where we should be more taken care of. But I also agree with Director Roth in regards to how this is a weird way of doing it. I think, given the activities that Pat and the department have undertaken in the wake of the issues surrounding Highway 4, as well as the work that was being done with the AgDev committee, and there were a few things with First Nations that were involved that were really helpful as well on the Blitz side of things. I would suggest that maybe we contemplate looking at this from a whole of region perspective, and potentially have at least Kuwait being involved, and maybe other indigenous communities being involved in the program. Make this a service in some way instead. I think a lot of that can be said for search and rescue and other things too, but I think that boat's already sailed. But I think that's something that may require some conversations with the indigenous councils, because I think our involvement should be more meaningful than what formula comes up with as well, and that would be negotiable. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Minions.
Thank you. Just want to strongly agree with Director Roth that this is a weird way to fund this. And I think that the nature of this grant and aid system leads to directors just throwing out numbers of what they want to pay this year. And I think that's very dysfunctional and doesn't represent the service that's being provided. So I would like us to expedite the conversations around looking at what does a proper service for economic development look like. I think that this is fine for this year, but I would rather we don't be back at budget next year looking at funding this in the same way. So I guess I'll make a follow-up motion once this one is completed so that we can look at a proper way of moving forward next year.
Director Cote.
Thank you. I'm sure that staff have no ability at this point to take on economic development. I know that the city has been doing us a favor. I don't feel that specifically areas like, say, Cherry Creek that I know of have received any benefits from contributing to this. I don't know what they are. I guess that's why I'm feeling kind of left in the cold. I don't think that we get responses. Mr. Deacon did come a couple times to the board and talked about economic development, but I think we need a better talk about this. Also, does Long Beach pay into the West Coast? economic development. Thanks.
Thank you. I just want to add that Pat Deacon is also putting in a tremendous amount of hours into doctor recruitment and retention, which benefits the whole valley as well. So it's not just bringing in a new business, like he does a lot of work on a lot of different things. When you say that people don't see benefits, they do see benefits. CEO?
I can't answer your question, Penny, and maybe we'll defer that one to Terry, but I will say that the amount of time that I've spent with Mr. Deacon is extremely valuable. Yeah, whether it be the road closures, whether it be, I'll also flag that we have had multi-millions invested in the valley as a result of his touring with the Film Commission and working with them, the grants through Community Futures. He coordinates all of that interaction with different agencies and provincial agencies included. So there is a tremendous amount that does come in. And so I know that Director Minions wants to bring up a motion. And I just want to echo that from staff perspective, we will need direction in order to take action. It's an important element. And I will also flag that some of the discussions that we are going to have later on in the future around if we have a role in doctor recruitment or in that area, if we talk about future buildings, because we have started that discussion about that, and if we have a role in housing, because we've talked about trying to figure out where we fit in there, that there is an underlying theme with this board, and I think in the general community, that we have to diversify away from just the tax-only pay, and we need some other economic models. And again, this fits into the exploration that's done through economic diversity. So I would look forward to receiving that direction and helping it.
Okay, have any questions or comments? I'm going to ask Heather to read the motion. Director Sparrow.
Oh, thank you. It's not that I'm not opposed to paying, but I want to pay the same amount of those that have the same amount of population base, right? So if they want to step up, that's also another way of doing it. But I don't think this meeting today is going to people want to give their money up too easily today, but that's also something to look at the future. We can get together and pursue it. But right now, I think it's bring us back where we should belong, and then we can move together as an organization.
Dr. Roth?
Yeah, I'm willing to amend the amount that we contribute in Beaver Creek back to 3,000. So it would be the original 2023 award that was awarded, duplicated.
So you're amending your motion to read the same as previous funding? Okay. Can I get a seconder? Second by Director Jack. Director Sparrow?
I like your idea, but is that the Cherry Creek paying more per capita than anybody else because of that? Unless somebody else wants to step up and take a little roll away from me.
We can reduce yours.
Or we can just redo the formula kind of idea, so the top amount stay the same, but each one pays a bit more. I'll do that too.
Okay, I'm lost. Dr. Jack?
Yeah, does that sound like?
No.
Yeah, I think it's the formula or nothing at this point. I think that would be the plan.
Okay, the formula is good.
Director Cote?
Thank you. The reason that it's done this is so that there is equity. There's not that many more people at Sprout Lake than there is in Cherry Creek. It's going by per capita more so than assessment based, because I'm not paying the majority. Assessment based, thanks.
Dr. Roth?
I actually do see the value. And $10,500 does seem low when you look at the big picture, right? So maybe if we just duplicated what we did last year with the idea in mind that we need to change how we do this.
I love that. Thank you. Director Jack?
Yeah, through the chair, I do believe that's something that Director Minions is going to put on the table immediately after this motion. So, yeah.
Okay, so we have an amendment on the floor. All in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? Motion carried. So the amendment motion is that we reward the same as 2023. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Yes. Director Minions, did you have another motion or just direction to staff that we review a better funding model?
I want to make a motion. I will move that the committee of the whole recommends to the ACRD board that we pursue the staff bring back a report on service delivery options and possibilities for creating an economic development function.
Second by Director Jack.
Thanks. And just for clarity, I think that could look at a whole range of options. The ACRD may not ever want to provide the service. It may always be contract, but I think some parameters and looking at helping each area understand the value, and then looking at a more like long-term model, I think would be fantastic. And I just wanted to note one thing that hasn't been mentioned in the conversation is I would estimate on a pretty regular basis that Pat probably spends like anywhere from 10 to 25% of his time working on kind of supporting our larger industries like Catalyst, like Western Forest Products, and specifically the employees. He's done a ton of work around the closure of APD, working with those employees, being the intermediary between the province and the employees for, you know, the jobs that have been lost. And I mean, we know with just Catalyst alone, over 50% of the employees do not live in the city of Port Alberni. We know that there are some who live in Parksville, Qualicum, but the vast majority of the employees of Catalyst live in the regional areas of the Alberni Valley. So I think just in that alone, like those jobs are critical to our valley. It may not be him bringing new businesses to your specific areas, but it's promoting and supporting the economic well-being of all of our taxpayers in a variety of ways. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having a greater conversation around the future of the service. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Jack.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask that staff include options for Indigenous involvement and what some alternate options for the formula may look like, because I can just say, yeah, we're in, and I can throw my $75 if I want to, but that's not meaningful. So just if we look at that as well. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Roth? And also look at grant funding opportunities to do this, because I think there might be some out there right now. Thank you. Okay, has staff got clear direction? Motion on the floor. Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next is Alberni District Fall Fair. They're asking for $1,000 in kind.
Can I just introduce this one because it is a little strange in that also added to their application was plus grant for taxes. If the board is interested in me finding out more, I'm happy to do that. There was just a really quick turnaround between the deadline and us getting this agenda out. So I haven't really explored, they didn't put an amount. I inquired with the city and they weren't really sure what they were asking for either, based on I guess they're in the middle of a new agreement or negotiating a new agreement. So I am happy to get more information about that. But historically, we've provided $1,000 as an in-kind, which is them using our laminating signs, our computers and stuff to print all of their signage at the thing.
Would you prefer us to part this, the whole amount, or just vote on the in-kind for now and then postpone the other one?
If there's some interest, like if you're not going to deny it, but you would like more information about the payment for the tax component, I'm happy to get that. But if there's no interest in supporting their request for funding for the taxes, then we can just, I don't want to ask if we're not interested in supporting.
Director Cote, then Director Roth.
Thank you. At this time, I would just support the $1,000 in kind. If staff want to bring back more information, we can look at it at a further date. But when we don't have the information, I don't feel comfortable at all in supporting something. So I would make the motion to do the 1,000 in kind. Thanks.
Director Roth. Thank you, Director McClement. Okay. Any other questions or comments?
Just clarifying that it's all municipalities and electoral areas.
Director Cote? Yeah, that was your intent? Okay, Director Steer?
Oh, I was just gonna say, absolutely, we love the fall fair here on the West Coast, so.
Everybody loves the fall fair. Okay, all in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Music by the Sea, $2,000, and they received $2,000 last year. And this is for all municipalities and electoral areas. Any questions or comments? Dr. Beckett, do you want to comment on Music by the Sea because it's held in Banfield?
Yeah, thanks very much. You know, it's not just about a cultural event, you know, in the community, but it's about promoting young artists, music artists, and bringing them in from all across the province, including Canada, as far back as Toronto and other centers, and to see these kids performing. Seeing other parts of Canada. They put their heart and soul into it, and it's a wonderful event that again showcases Banfield Marine Sciences Center, and I just can't say enough about the effort that they've put into making it successful in spite of the challenges that they experienced with COVID. So I would appeal to everyone for their support. Thank you.
I'll take that as a motion, Director Beckett. Second by Director Roth. I personally have never been able to attend this event, but I know people who have been and they say it's just fantastic. So a lot of people from Port Alberni do attend. So any final questions or comments, Director Jack?
So I think Music by the Sea might be asking Voya for some support as well. I'm just seeing if it's on our agenda. But I would echo the sentiment that this has some value to the entire, at least to the entire valley, plus Banfield and Kuwait, just because of the way that it attracts some travelers who are looking for an experience of music and all that sort of thing. The student aspect is not something I looked at, so that's an additional. I think this is worth the investment. But I'll get back to you on whether or not Kuwait can contribute here or we're going to be doing it.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Carving on the Edge Festival Society. They're asking for $2,500, and that's what they received last year. Can anybody comment on this organization? Does anybody on the West Coast know about this organization and can comment on it? Director Steer?
My mouse isn't working great on this computer. Anyway, yes, it's a great organization. It's been going on for a long time. It supports the whole region. There's a number of artists that come up to this event from all, well, not just our region, but from all over. It's well participated in. It's a wonderful event. It brings great value to the whole region, and I highly support it.
Would you like to make that as a motion to approve it?
I will, yes.
I'll second.
Thank you, Director McEwen. Director Roth, were you going to second that or did you have a comment? Okay. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, the next is Cherry Creek Community Recreation Commission, and I'm going to excuse myself again. So Director Jack, can you take over, please? Thank you.
Bring my own device this time. Okay. So this is a grant asking for $20,000. And they do have a society registration number. And I believe it was the same amount that they're asking for from the last fiscal year as well. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Dr. Sparrow and Dr. Roth.
Thank you for that. The Cherry Creek Community Recreation Commission, they do a lot of work out there. They're the hub, I guess we call it Cherry Creek. What I'd like to make a motion, see if the ACRD can look for any grant money to help them with the replacement of their fire doors on the outside. That's part of what they want to do with their money is replace the doors. And since they are a reception center in the Alberni Valley, I'd like to see if there's any grants available that HRD can help to forward this to alleviate the cost. In the meantime, I support this motion for $20,000 in Cherry Creek Community Commission.
Thank you. If that's intended as a motion, we have Director Cote seconding. Yeah, is that okay? Okay. Director Roth is next.
So does that mean the motion would be dependent on grants?
It sounds like it's if they find the grants, it just alleviates the cost, but we're committing the 20.
Yeah, because it's kind of odd, because we have a park service area for Beaver Creek. Do you have a park service area for Cherry Creek?
Not that I know of. We have, but we stand corrected.
Yeah, we do have so the park service area, but it doesn't include like the community hall, and the property that the community hall is on is not regional district. We have it is all owned and operated by the commission. It is not operated by the regional district.
Director Sparrow?
Thank you. I did see a little while ago that Beaver Creek Community Hall did receive a Community Works Fund, or apply for one. I want this to apply here too, and if we could pursue that avenue to see if it would fit in with the criteria, any grant criteria, this all help is good.
I can clarify that I have provided the application and offered to meet with the commission numerous times. We would have to make sure it qualifies. There has to be so many public events. You can't just be open for like rentals. However, I think if we did the paperwork, we definitely could. On the opposite side of that is I have no unallocated Canada Community Build funds at this time, because the agreement is running out here on March 31st, and Canada and the province have not signed a new agreement yet. So I definitely think that's an option for the future. If a new agreement, or if our interest rates continue to stay high and we end up with more interest, $20,000 we earn probably quite quickly. But at this time, there's no unallocated Canada Community Build funds that we could put towards this.
Just for clarity, so when you go to an election out there, is that considered to be a public event? Because we've done a lot out there.
Yeah.
And any other thing like the community event, you're going to have your public open house there for your thing we had out there in the community. Is that part of the criteria?
Like an election stuff would be a hall rental. Like we are renting the hall as an organization to host something there. So like one that I can think of that they have, and this is just from my knowledge of what goes on out there, is like their Halloween event. That's like a open the doors to the public type thing. So there's just some paperwork that needs to be done by the commission in order to determine that they qualify as either a sports infrastructure or cultural infrastructure. Like Beaver Creek Community Club Hall, we've actually put through the like cultural infrastructure approach, whereas Sport Lake Community Association and all of their pickleball and everything that goes there, we've used the infrastructure, the sports infrastructure stream. But yeah, I'm happy to work with the commission if they want to go through that process.
You got to watch out for pickleball. They're a strong lobby. So I think I had Director Siga and then Director.
Thank you. I can see it ticked off as entire regional district. Is that correct?
That is what their application is. Historically, it's been area F only that has been contributing to it. So they feel, I guess they feel like their events, everyone can go to them. So they put the entire regional district. But historically, it's only been Cherry Creek that has funded their requests.
Yeah, the changes have happened in the past. Director Roth and then Director Cote.
I would like it to stay as Cherry Creek's only. And I would also like them to seek, especially this high number, you know, in areas other than through a grant and aid. So if we can help them apply for other funding, I think it would be more beneficial.
Before we go to Director Sparrow, Director Siga, did you have any follow-up?
No, I just because we are so far away, I'm just wondering, like, if the hall was being used for you know, to house people in the emergency situations where they're stuck in Port Alberni, that kind of thing, then I can see the the implication for the West Coast residents. But if it's like a community hall, like the Ucluelet Community Hall, which is supported by the local community, then I think that's a local community funded kind of thing.
Thanks.
Thank you.
When that does happen from an emergency perspective, it wouldn't be us paying for that. There's a whole provincial ministry that's been set up that should pay for stuff like that, and Daniel and I are working on that. Director, go ahead, Director Sparrow.
Thank you. It is a reception center, so if there is some problem, they can go there. It is accessible for wheelchairs and that. Some other places I've designated aren't that way, but this one is. There's about 7 in town, so. And there's 2 out in Cherry Creek, one being McLean's Mill area, which I guess is Beaufort. Technically, yeah, Beaufort has 2, then we have 1. So it is open to the public. That's why I put down the way it was. It is open to the public in the event of emergency.
Director Minions, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just wanted clarification of if there's a motion or what the motion is, as I had to step out for a moment.
Yeah, the motion is to grant the 20,000, but that it be paid for by Cherry Creek as is tradition, even though it was applied for everybody. Yeah, yeah. Is that okay? Yeah. Any further comments, Director Cote?
Thank you. I don't believe that emergency shelter or whatever it is part of the community works eligibility. So I'm pretty sure that we're not allowed to say that at Sprout Lake if we to put that into our grant application. So I wouldn't go with that. And yeah, it's my understanding that this is for Cherry Creek residents only, but I see that it's ticked. I missed that.
I think the same mistake was made last time, or the same try. Dr. Roth, are you just moving your fingers, or do you want to speak? Okay, okay. Oh yeah, that's your hurt arm, right? Yeah. Okay. Any further comments? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Yeah, okay. Okay.
So the Committee of the Whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant aid in the amount of $20,000 in 2024 to the Cherry Creek Community Recreation Commission, with the following area participating: Cherry Creek, and direct staff to assist in searching for grant opportunities for the Cherry Creek Community Recreation Commission.
Okay, we'll try that again. All those in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, next up, well, we have Deb coming back, and I'll get out of the chair again. Thank you, Deb.
Would the board like to take a 5-minute break or want to keep plowing through? What's your pleasure? Okay. I just wanted to ask to make sure. Porta Players Dramatic Society, they're asking for $10,000 and they received $2,000 last year. Is there any questions or comments? Dr. McClellan.
Yeah, I move that we give them a grant and aid of $2,000.
Including the same areas as last year?
I'd take mine off, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be.
Dr. Roth, seconded by Director Roth. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Alberni Makerspace Society. They're asking for $8,000, and last year they received $5,000. And in 2022, they received $10,500 from the Alberni Valley Landfill budget. Director Roth.
I'd like to move that the Committee of the Whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant aid in the amount of $5,000 in 2024 to Alberni Makerspace Society, with the following areas participating: the City of Port Alberni, BB, E, and F.
I'll second that motion. Any questions or comments? Director Cote.
Thank you. I haven't been there. I know that they, I'd like to know what their their rent is at the, I'd like some more information on this, I guess. I'd like to know what they're paying rent because they're in the recycle building. And just what the benefit is to the community.
Terry?
They pay $1 a year in rent for the upstairs at the recycle depot, and the ACRD also covers their utilities for the space.
Director Cote?
Thank you. I guess I just don't have enough information about this. I'm not that supportive. Thanks.
Yeah, Dr. Roth?
Sorry, on their application, they asked for the entire regional district, the district of Tofino, the city of Port Alberni, and the district of Ucluelet, but my motion did not include Ucluelet and Tofino. Would they like to participate?
Director Minions, and then Director Steer.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak in support of the motion that's been made. I think this is a really worthwhile service. That's something kind of outside of the box. And I would encourage anyone who hasn't been there to go take a tour. They do awesome tours. They provide a lot of really innovative services and kind of options for people of all ages, including children. I think of them as sort of like a think tank of innovation, and they're trying to solve problems in, including recycling challenges, things that can't be recycled easily. They're finding other purposes for them. They're teaching kids computer skills. They're teaching programming and things like that. You can bring an old computer there and have them somebody will work with you to fix it up rather than having to buy a new computer. They're trying to take things out of the landfill. They're an outside of the box, really unique service, and they're being run by a really passionate group of super dedicated volunteers. They've been working hard to get up and running for a couple of years, and I think they finally are building the momentum that they needed to be successful. So I'm super happy to support them and appreciate the motion that's been put forward. Thanks.
Director Steer, then Director Johnson.
Yeah, I would just support the motion on the table as was presented by Director Roth, excluding the Tofino. I can't speak for Ucluelet or Area C, but I'm comfortable with the motion that's on the table as presented by Director Roth.
Director Johnson.
Hi, just want to support it, though not financially. My sister lives in Port Alberni, and she is constantly telling us of the stuff that she's done there. So I think it's good.
Thank you. I do know they have a lot of programs for kids, and they really enjoy going there. Director Cote.
Thank you. Could this not come out of the landfill budget then? I think that it was mentioned that it did last year. Thanks.
In 2022. Terry?
I can clarify that. So the budget in 2022, like what they'd asked for was renovations to the upstairs space. And so because it's our building as the ACRD, it just seemed appropriate to fund it through the service that owned the building, because the improvements did add to the value of our building. I don't think this request this year aligns with, like, it's not asking to increase or better the infrastructure that we've provided them. So that was kind of just a one-off that made sense for that year because of what the application was doing.
Dr. Cote.
Thank you. So if we're rerouting things from the landfill, it seems to me that this could be like a climate action kind of grant. It could, just trying to find a spot where the money could come from. It sounds like a worthwhile investment for a grant. Thank you.
Thank you. Any final questions or comments? All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Perhaps we can work with them next year to look for alternative sources of funding. If anything comes up, we'll keep them in mind, okay? Thank you. Pacific Rim Art Society, $2,500. Director McEwen.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, PAS is also asking the District of Ucluelet for $3,000 for the exact same festival. Normally, they spread their asks out. They'll ask for Ucluelet for the Cultural Heritage Festival, and they'll ask the ACRD for Missoula Children's Festival. But for some reason, this year they've asked both the ACRD and the District of Ucluelet for funds for the Cultural Heritage Festival. So I would like to make a motion to move this to the West Coast Committee.
Moved by Director McEwen, second by Director McClellan. Terry?
Sorry, can we just bring this back to a future, just say a future meeting? Because last year it was all municipalities and electoral areas that contributed. So I don't really want to limit the conversation down to the West Coast Committee. We will get further information out from District of Ucluelet prior to that meeting, but if that's okay, Director McEwen.
That's great, thanks.
Okay, so we'll postpone this till a future meeting. Okay, all in favor of that? Any opposed? Motion carried. Alberni Valley Wrestling Club, they're asking for $1,500, and that was what they received last year. Director Roth.
I'd like to move that the Committee of the Whole recommend that the ACRD Board of Directors award a grant aid in the amount of $1,500 in 2024 to the Alberni Valley Wrestling Club, and the participating areas will be all municipalities and electoral areas.
Any questions or comments? Do we have a seconder? Second by Director Steer. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Alberni Valley Media Community Contribution Company. They're asking for $8,000 in this new application. Any questions or comments? Director Sparrow.
It says your organization nonprofit. It said no, where's your community contribution company? Does that meet the criteria for being in here? Because our policy doesn't say exactly that.
I would say that they are not a registered not-for-profit, but they are, the model that they have done is considered nonprofit. And as we have these discussions a few times, I'm hearing that maybe one of the considerations if we go to revise the grant and aid policy is maybe we do want to limit or at least clarify whether you must be a registered society or if other organizations such as this will continue to be eligible.
Director Roth and then Director Jack.
What is a community contribution company?
It's the Scoop Port Alberni. Jack?
So, so this is a different model for how it's an impact-based model, which means when the company makes money, they plan to contribute a certain percentage of their profit, however calculated, back into the community in certain ways. And so that's usually a part of the business model that they adopt. So they hold themselves accountable for that. So the devil's in the details there, but it does technically fall under the approach of being eligible for certain grants from a provincial perspective. I don't know about feds. I assume they could, but I haven't looked into it. But it's only a net benefit if they make money. So that's the balancing point. Whereas a regular society, they'll usually provide services as they're operating. Whereas this system, they have to make money first before they contribute, which some see as more wise and others say as more of a hedge, and it's kind of both. So that's the way we have to weigh this. Thanks.
Director Roth?
Well, the first sentence, when it says to describe the services and benefits of the organization, it says that it's a community contribution company, and then in brackets, hybrid, nonprofit and for-profit. So
There is a business model as profit for nonprofit.
yeah,
Like, do you remember Potluck Ceramics? They were a profit for nonprofit.
yeah, but isn't the intent of this whole grant and aid meant for nonprofit organizations?
Director Jack?
Yes. Sorry. Yes, it is, but the definition is via the definition that we adopt through the province, which means if they say that this is eligible, then we say it's eligible as well. As far as I know.
Director Roth and Director Cote.
Well, if we go through BC Gaming and their definitions and everything, I don't know that this would be, but I do know that Like, for instance, a Chamber of Commerce would not be eligible. Yet it's a nonprofit, but it's different, right? So is this, yeah.
It is considered nonprofit by CRA as well. Yeah. BC Gaming is weird though. Director Jack.
Thank you. BC Gaming is a crown agency with its own establishing legislation, so they're just weird, and it's hard to base it, but it doesn't affect us, not through how we define it. We can choose to define it in a different way, though, if we update the policy.
I'm also a little bit worried about contributing to media, just because of potential conflict.
Director Minion.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak in support of providing a contribution to this group. I think that since they've started, they have provided significant community benefit to the Alberni Valley in terms of how they are getting information out in a very unbiased way about what's going on in the Alberni Valley. They are basically taking questions that people post on social media, and they are using that to determine the stories that they are putting out there. So when people are saying, you know, why isn't my street being plowed more when it snows, or why is the city putting brine down, or what are they spraying on the roads? They're providing information. That's a city example. They're providing a lot of community support for nonprofits and other events going on as well. But I think especially since we've seen such a limit in local media, having a nonprofit group take this over, I've certainly seen tremendous value. I'd like to support them. I know that they are, I don't know about the model of the community benefits, but I think as long as we can research and deem it to be okay with our policy, then I'm fully supportive of providing them with a grant, and ideally in that sense, making sure that we can keep some level of unbiased media going in our community.
Is that your motion then to support it?
Sure. I will move that they made an $8,000 request. I will move a $5,000 approval for, and I would include the city of Port Alberni and Alberni Valley areas.
I'll second that. Director Cote, then Director Roth.
Thank you. I've had my hand up for a while. I'm not feeling very comfortable about this. I think that we're providing funding for a business. If this was any local newspaper, I would not be supporting it. So I just can't see myself supporting this one either. Thanks.
Director Roth.
I agree with Director Cote. I think it's kind of going where we shouldn't go. And I also would like confirmation, because it says right here that it is not a nonprofit organization. They tick no, so we would need confirmation anyways.
Director Minions.
Thanks. I was just going to say, I wonder if it's worth sending this back to staff to research and get confirmation of whether it is or is not okay within our policy, rather than us kind of speculating on a model that we're not probably super familiar with. And if the board was interested, I think there could be some value in inviting Nancy, Michael, and Terry to present more information. I've seen so much change in the ability to get information out over the last few years, and this is really the first time that I've I think as elected officials, we probably all feel frustration in being able to tell people, to communicate what's going on. People don't necessarily want to watch the city's news, read our newsletters, that types of thing. They want information that they feel is unbiased. And this is the first time that I've really seen a level of media out there that the community is wholeheartedly buying into and now seeking out to understand currently what's going on in the community and on so many different levels. I think it's incredibly positive. And Nancy, has been in our community for 25 years on Shaw, providing a level of service is really similar to this. And now she's doing it, now that Shaw got rid of our local people, she's doing it through this organization. And I would just encourage the board to kind of seek more information on this one prior to, instead of defeating it or prior to making a decision, because I do just think it's an incredibly valuable service that's being provided. And although I was a bit skeptical at first if it was going to be anything different than just, you know, a standard local media, I've been incredibly impressed with how they communicate stories and the just broad spectrum of information that they're providing to the Valley right now. I think there's a high value on that service. Thanks.
Dr. Minnens, would you like to withdraw your motion and allow staff to do research to make sure that this is eligible?
I think we could defer it to another meeting. I don't think it necessarily needs to be withdrawn. I'd be okay. I guess, move to defer my motion to a future date.
Second by Director Jack. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Yes. Motion carried. And staff has direction on that one? Perfect. Next is Alberni Valley Disc Golf Club, and they're asking for $2,000, and this is a new application. Any questions or comments? Director Jack.
Yeah, so I looked into disc golf. I thought it was really strange, but apparently it's quite big, especially on the island. So this might be something where there is interest, and if this group wants to actually do some work with the money that we give them, it might be worthwhile. Apparently they travel from community to community like golfers do. So this is potentially something good there. So thanks.
Director Roth.
I noticed on their application that they said that they have received or applied for City of Port Alberni $2,000 for CIP. So would that not be double dipping?
Yes, it is one of the ones that I indicated. So City of Port Alberni would be unable to contribute, but the rest of the areas, like if the Alberni Valley electoral areas would like to contribute, they can do that.
Terry, do we know if the city has approved them yet or not?
My understanding is yes. Yeah, I think it is done in November or December based on the process.
Okay. I just don't think it's come to council yet. That's why I asked the question. Thank you.
Always the first to know.
Director Cote and then Director Steer.
Thank you. So I see that not all of the Alberni Valley directors areas have been included, so it's eliminating Beaufort. I already pay so much for parks and recreation in Sprout Lake. I'm not really that supportive of supporting this for up to $2,000. If the City of Port Alberni is not in, I would only go up with the regional area up to $1,000.
Thanks. Would you like to make that a motion?
I would, but I would also include Beaufort.
Director Roth?
I'll second that.
Thank you. So there's a motion on the floor to give them a grant in aid in the amount of $1,000, including areas. Everyone. Any final questions or comments, Director McClellan?
Yeah, I think Beaufort would want out of it. I know it's only about $20, but from the information I'm getting here, it would be going out.
So we'll have to make sure we tell them that no Beaufort players or residents are allowed to play disc golf. So are you withdrawing your area then?
It wasn't included.
Okay, so.
And there's several here that did not include.
Okay. So areas.
Say that on here. Several that did not include Beaufort and Crest, and this is just one.
So a motion for $1,000 for areas E, D, and F. Director Sega? Did you have your hand up, Director Sparrow?
Is this not double dipping if the city's already given money as a grant in aid? It just says here no double dipping.
So an area cannot provide money twice. So City of Port Alberni could not provide money to this grant because they've provided money. So the other areas can, but we couldn't then turn around and have City of Port Alberni make a contribution a second time. So just the same as like if UQLIT decides in their process that they're going to award to, let's use Redfish as an example, but Tofino and Area C would like to go together to make a smaller contribution to Redfish, then they can. It's just the area that has been contributing, they don't want to have contributing twice.
Just a point of order, can I clarify the electoral areas, B, D, E, and F?
Yes.
No E?
D, E, and F. All in favor of the motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Beaver Creek Community Club. They're asking for $50,000 and this is a new application. Director McClellan.
I would just like to move this removal from the request. The director, Fred, has notified me that it was put in almost by accident, and they do have enough money from several other sources. So the motion is to remove it.
Moved by Director McClellan, second by Director Roth.
You notice setting a good example here.
Thank you. We so appreciate that. All in favor of that motion? Any opposed? Motion carried. Port Alberni August Orchestra and Chorus Society, they're asking for $5,000 and this is also a new application. Comments? Director Sparrow, you're familiar with the organization. Do you have any comments on it for us that are not familiar with the organization?
Thanks for doing that. The Port Alberni Orchestra and Choral Society is an umbrella society that encompasses a lot of things, a lot of singing in their workshops. My wife is in timber, which has been going on for a lot of years. So what they receive from the city, I believe, is 2 grant needs for paying off the insurance and the cost of one of the buildings for one of them. Some of the problems they're having is the cost of the auditorium to rent is going up. And so they're finding all their costs are going up, but they can't put more people in the seat because of the capacity of 500 people. So they are leaning on their people in society to pay more than their dues, and that's becoming an onerous thing. So I think they're asking this way to help alleviate some of the pressures of being asked for rent and all that kind of stuff. They have to pay for music. They don't get to buy the music. They have to rent the sheets kind of idea as they go through it. So even though they're singing, they have to pay for the music to sing. So there's that kind of thing going on. So I understand what's going on, but I'll defer my comments past that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Director Cote?
Sorry, move to deny this application.
Moved and seconded by Director Roth. Director Steer, you had a comment or question?
Yeah, I'll wait to see the outcome. My only comment was I was trying to find, because I couldn't find it in my notes, whether it was a request from the entire regional district or was it specific to some of the electoral area directors.
They kicked off City of Port Alberni electoral area E, B, D, and F. Oh, there you go. So we have a motion on the floor to deny, and it's been seconded. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Tofino Arts Council. They're asking for $2,000, and this is a new application. Would anyone from the West Coast like to speak on this organization?
I can, of course, and it's specific. I mean, I'll look to the other 2 directors that would be involved in this conversation, but it does support many of the organizations on the West Coast as well, not just specifically to Tofino. It just happens to have that name. I'm in support of the application. And those that would be contributing are the district of Tofino, the electoral area, and the district of Ucluelet. So unless I see comment from the other two directors that would be involved, I'm happy to support it at this time.
Any comments from the other West Coast directors? Would someone like to second that motion? Seconded by Director Roth. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Shashak Canoe family, they're asking for $10,000, and this is a new application. Cynthia.
Hi, I was just going to ask if this one be deferred, as there was a recent announcement that this may be postponed.
Okay, I'll make the motion to defer, second by Director Roth. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Ucluelet and Area Historical Society, they're asking for $2,500, and this is a new application. But I noticed they've also applied for a community grant, so this one will be deferred as well. Is that on your list, Director McEwen?
I'm just checking, hold on. Yes.
Would you like to make a motion to defer this one?
Are we deferring this one to the West Coast Committee or just deferring it?
Sure, we'll do that. Refer it to the West Coast Committee.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Moved by Director McEwen, second by Director Sega. All in favor? Oh, did you want to speak, Director Sega? Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I tried to get in there before the motion was seconded, but it says for funders, they've got everyone ticked, so it can't go to the West Coast Committee. It's one of those things that has to be deferred then. It is, am I correct in seeing that's ticked off there for where it's coming from?
Good catch.
Sorry.
The West Coast directors.
Because they've got entire regional district, and then they've got ticks in everybody's for funding. So it'll have to just be deferred if it's going to be.
Just defer it to a future meeting.
Yes, I'd like to amend the original motion to, rather than West Coast Committee, to go to a further future meeting.
Moved by Director Sega, seconded by Director Jack. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, we're getting towards the end. Banfield Community Affairs for $10,000, and they're awarded $10,000 last year. Director Beckett, do you want to speak on this?
Absolutely support the request for $10,000. Amazing group of volunteers who look after distribution of those grant and aids locally. Thank you.
I can clarify that it's just a standing association that they have out there that the director has supported for a number of years, that they don't do through like a form. It's just a $10,000 contribution every year. They definitely provide a lot of value and a lot of reporting through their process. So a little bit different, and it is only Area A Banfield that pays.
Okay, would you?
Yeah, I move we do it real quick.
Moved by Director McClellan, second by Director Roth. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Sprout Lake contribution to City of Port Alberni to eliminate non-city resident rate fees in the amount of $24,243, and this is for Area D. Director Cote?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Director Cote. Did we get a second by Director Sparrow? Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is Sprout Lake Special Events, the amount of $10,000, and this is for Area D as well.
I'll make that motion.
Second by Director Roth. Final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Beaver Creek Special Events in the amount of $1,000. This is for Area E. Director Roth.
I'll make that motion.
Second by Director McClellan. Any final questions or comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. And Cherry Creek contribution to City of Port Alberni to eliminate non-city resident rate fees in the amount of $22,509. And this is for Area F. Director Sparrow.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Moved by Director Sparrow, second by Director Roth. Final questions or comments? All in favor? Oh, you had a question?
I had a question. So there's only 2 areas in the ACRD that pay towards city contributions?
I can answer that. So area E, Beaver Creek has a bylaw. So same idea as a grant and aid for recreational services, but it's done by bylaw, so slightly different. And area B, Beaufort, does not contribute.
Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Director Sparrow?
Over the detail, and then that one's all ticked off by a little while ago for areas of contribution. I think it's because the wording in number 4, it says here, which of the following areas of Winnipeg Lake region receive a benefit for services for your organization, not which ones you should pay for your organization. So you'll all receive a benefit, but we don't all pay. So I think it's like clarification of that. We've got a second line saying, and who's going to pay for the services would help to that line.
Director Jack?
Yeah, outside of who you hope will contribute to this, who do you think actually will, is kind of the implication we want to make. I think that makes more sense. Making a differentiation between the Alberni Valley, the West Coast, and everyone else probably is something that needs to be communicated to people, because that's how we think, but that's not necessarily how applicants think. Thank you.
I think applicants took that because they want to ensure that shows a benefit to the whole community or the whole area. Director Roth?
I'd just like to say this involves a lot of money, and I feel like it's grown into something outside of a grant and aid program. I feel like we're more like BC Gaming, and we should have stricter rules, and we should have reporting requirements for when we hand out the money, that, you know, there's something that says that the money was spent on exactly what they said they would spend it on. It's just changed, it's evolved, and I don't like it, actually.
Yes, there is reporting requirements. Yes, there is. And pardon me? Finance.
Who sees the report?
Finance does.
Okay, as long as they're looking at them and trust them.
Yeah.
I'd just like to make just one comment that, you know, if we make any of these a service, we got it. You don't get rid of a service very easily on this board or any other regional district board. So it's kind of cumbersome, but maybe there is another way in between grant and aid and a service to do it. But I do know we went through this debate several times years back and decided we didn't want to make a service. We did a few, but mostly no.
Yeah, and we did make a motion last year for to ask staff to review the process. They just didn't get to it, but they said that's one of their priorities for this year. So we have lots of discussion left on this. Director Stair?
I think you just answered it. I think it has become clear in that that had come forward last year around a reform, looking at a reform process for the grants and aid at the Alberni-Clayoquot Regional District. So you answered it. Thank you, Director Haggard, and appreciate all the work that was done today.
Thank you. Any questions, any final questions from the board? Any questions online?
So no questions received by email nor in Zoom. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And I'll second. All in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for a long afternoon.
Thank you for sharing, Jeff.